Good evening, ladies. Hello, hello.
Hi,
Hi, Nada. Hi, Hela, Inji, Umana. How's everybody doing today?
good. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Good. All right. Ramadan. That's what we're talking about today. Ramadan. And I mean, Ramadan, obviously, because it just happens to be the month of fasting that is upon us. But I'm going to talk about fasting in general because fasting, spiritual fasting. So I'm not, just to be clear, whenever I refer to fasting, especially during the period now, I'm not referring to intermittent fasting or anything like that. This is a spiritual fast. So what happens in a spiritual fast, which is pretty much, I think every single religion in the world has some type of fasting incorporated into the practice and the tradition of the religion. And the reason for that is not, believe it or not, it's not about the food. It's not about trying to figure out how you feel when you don't have food. Yeah, there's a little bit of it where, you relate to people who don't have as much access to food as you do. But remember what we said, that food is it's a secondary, the physical food that you put in your body is secondary food. It feeds the physical. Whereas your primary foods, remember there's 12 of them, spirituality is one of your primary foods. And these are the foods that feed your soul. So any type of fasting, whether you're in Ramadan or you're fasting for Easter, you're doing any kind of spiritual fast, religious fast, the point of that is to remove the focus off the physical. You stop eating so that you allow space to grow spiritually. It is not about eating more food, needing more food, starving yourself too much. It is literally about creating the space within you to not think about feeding the physical or whatever this specified period of time is, whether it's Ramadan, the 30 days for Ramadan, whether, for Easter, it could be 40 days. Other religious traditions have shorter 10 days, 15 days, whatever the duration is. The point is for you to stop thinking about feeding the physical and focus on growing the spiritual. How you grow your spiritual, that's up to you. And everybody's in different phases and stages of growing their spirituality. So, in order to do that, in order to truly, if growing spiritually is a priority for you, in order to be successful in that, when you get the opportunity to fast spiritually, you're literally handed an opportunity on a golden platter. Because we don't, it might be one of those foods that for some people it might be least attention to. So you're given a chance once a year, several times a year, to actually focus on this primary food and really nothing else, just your spirituality. And in order to feel the benefits of this, you know how some people tell you, Ramadan is the most beautiful month, or whenever I'm fasting, I feel absolutely my best, or I feel amazing. And I used to wonder many years ago, I have no clue what this person is talking about. How are you feeling amazing when we're not eating all day, when we're hungry, when we're cranky, when we're irritable? And I'm sort of going through the motions just because I have to, until I became a health coach and I learned about secondary food and primary food, and that literally you can fill yourself so much spiritually, technically at any time, not just when you're fasting or Ramadan or a religious tradition, but we'll just focus because that's what's happening now. You can feel so fulfilled spiritually and from your other primary foods too that you're not hungry. You don't get physically hungry. You don't have cravings. You don't have the urge to go eat, but you have to be in the mindset to allow that to happen. And when you are surrounded by people who all they want to do is have feasts when it's time to eat, and all they do is talk about how they're missing their coffee and missing their cigarettes, and they can't wait for iftar time, and they can't handle the day, and their headaches are they can't function because of their headaches and their fatigue. It's really hard to find your balance when the majority of people are still, even though it's a spiritual month, are still really focused on what's happening to them physically. And one of the reasons that happens is because, again, people think in Ramadan, especially because you're going for 15, 18, 19 hours, depending on where you are in the world, without food, the belief is that the body has become deprived of nutrients and deprived of sugar, specifically, deprived of food. So when it's finally time to eat, we have to replenish, and we have to replenish well, and we have to replenish with quantity. And this couldn't be further from the truth. If you've seen people who who are in prison and they fast out of protest, and they'll fast for 40 days or 50 days or 60 days without any food, it takes them a good 90 days maybe to die. Obviously nobody's going to do this, but this is just evidence that that's how long the body can go for without food and drink. All we're being asked to do is to go without it for like 50, between 15 and 19. So your body's not starving by the time Fatar time comes. You're not deprived. You're not depleted. You definitely don't need this huge amount of food and the type of foods that we eat. So it ends up putting you in a vicious cycle. What happens is when you've been fasting, let's just go for 16 hours, just for argument's sake. And then it's time to eat. Imagine that you've just been sleeping for overnight. Let's say it's a regular day, it's not Ramadan, it's 7 p.m. now. Maybe you just had your dinner, and about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you go into sleep, and then you wake up at 6, and maybe at 7. In 12 hours, it's time for you to eat again. Would you wake up on a regular day and eat mahshi and macarona and penne and all the desserts, all the stuff that you see on the fitar tables? No, you wouldn't. Okay, so fasting is just this in reverse. We have a natural built-in fasting system because giving the body a chance to regenerate is very important. So we have that built in, and this is why we follow our natural circadian rhythm to allow the body to regenerate every single day of the year, besides Ramadan, at night, because the body needs to do that. And when the body wakes up in the morning, you can't just slam it. We slowly wake it up with lemon water. We slowly sort of, we tap and pat the liver a little bit because it's been working really hard all night. We give it the easy to digest foods. You would never wake up after not having eaten for 12 hours and eat what we eat when we do a religious fast, a spiritual fast. But for whatever reason, this has become the tradition. This has become just the way we do things, and nobody really questions it. So this is the first problem that happens, that your body has actually been resting and regenerating. Your liver actually adjusts. Your body's very smart, and it knows the difference between forced fasting and spiritual fasting. And your body adjusts in Ramadan, and the liver and all your organs and all your systems adjust to the new system. So they do work with you. So when it's time to eat, you have to pretend it's morning and treat your liver and treat your organs and treat your systems with the same consideration and respect that you would any other day. Now, I know this is much easier said than done, of course, and much easier said than done because if you were at home and you never had to go out for a fatar, you never had to see anyone, and you could do it by yourself and manage it by yourself, it would still be a challenge, because the first challenge is, breaking the years and the patterns of doing this. But it's important for you to know, even if you don't do it, just recognize that the way we break our fast is the first obstacle to having a truly healthy Ramadan. The second obstacle is that people think that fasting and the solution to fasting, the symptoms of fasting, are more food. But fasting and having a good day while you fast and having a good month of fasting is not about so much about the food that you're eating. So it's not about whether your body's actually getting food or not. It's about hydration. How optimally you function during a fast is not about the food that you're eating. It's about, again, how hydrated are your cells during this fast. The more dehydrated your cells get, the more tired and weak, lack of energy they are, which translates into you being tired and weak and lack of energy as well. So what causes the dehydration? You know by now that there are certain foods that are dead. inherently they don't have any hydration in them. And surprise, surprise, what are they? All the foods that everybody eats at halftime. The macarona, the penne, the rice, the desserts, right? We go from no food, no hydration in our body for 15 hours, and the first thing that we do is give our foods dry, dead food. There's zero hydration that comes in at the point where your body, what it needs the most is hydration. It's like the jump start. It's like the fuel to get you going after a full day of fasting. So we bombard the body with heavy, dry, dead, dehydrating foods, dessert, you name it. Then we take a little break. And then when it's time for suhoor, where you're prepping your body to fast again, so where in theory you want to hydrate as much as possible to maintain your energy. Again, what do we traditionally give the body at suhoor time? We give it fool and tamaya and bread and cheese and yogurt. So more dehydrating foods. So of course, everybody's going to wake up exhausted, tired, with a headache, whether you drink coffee or not. Even if you don't drink coffee, if this is what you eat, you're going to wake up tired and with a headache, and it will stay with you. And the dehydration will get worse when you continue to eat like this day by day by day by day. It doesn't get easier because the body gets more and more dehydrated. So the solution is a simple one. We remove the dehydrating foods, we flush the body with hydrating foods, and you watch how you can actually thrive in Ramadan so that you don't get cravings, you're not tired, you're not bogged down by headaches, you're not constantly reminded that, there's something uncomfortable in your body, so that you can focus on spiritual growth. Do you see how that's linked? If you want to have spiritual growth in Ramadan, if you feel like you just want to have a simpler Ramadan, an easier Ramadan, you absolutely need to focus on hydration. Number one for fasting is not about food, it's about hydration. And it's not about drinking water, because all of you have had that experience where you have the traditional typical fitar and then you drink lots of water until suhoor and you still wake up the next day exhausted and with a headache and tired, not able to focus, can't wait to come home to take a nap. So it's not about hydrating with water after you've eaten this big meal. It's about the essence of what you're providing with your body has to be hydration at its core. Now, of course, all of you here are steps and steps ahead of anybody who might be doing this for the first time ever. You're already very well hydrated going into Ramadan. You're already off of caffeine, most of you. Some of you maybe have introduced it back a little bit, but for the most part, you've gotten over the caffeine withdrawal. You already consume very hydrating foods all day long. This is going to put you leaps and bounds ahead of people who are not doing what you're doing. So then how do you maintain it in Ramadan? How do you maintain it? How do you still get to enjoy some of the traditions of Ramadan? Because you might not want to not have a single dessert in Ramadan. And there's no reason why you shouldn't. It's about figuring out your schedule, believe it or not. Figuring out your schedule and figuring out how you're going to maintain what you're already doing. So Ramadan is not about changing anything that you're currently doing. What's only going to change potentially is the types of food, the variations, but you're not going to go and eat pasta or rice or any of the foods we've removed in Ramadan, not just because it's Ramadan. Absolutely not. You will continue to eat fruits, vegetables, and a little bit of animal protein. That's it. You can choose the intensity that you want to go through in Ramadan. So I've shared on the group yesterday a Ramadan detox guide that you can read through to explain the process of fasting and to explain why we fast. And then there is a day-by-day plan. So if you want to schedule, if you want to not have to think, and you just want to follow a food plan, you can follow the day-by-day plan, which is different than, it's not a deep detox. So if you don't want to be doing deep detoxing during Ramadan, you don't have to. The day-by-day plan is a clean eating plan. So it's not as intense as deep detoxing. If you want to continue on deep detoxing, by all means, you can do that. There's nothing that says you can't do that during Ramadan. And actually, if you're deep detoxing and you still have a lot of symptoms and conditions, doing a deep detox during Ramadan might speed up the healing process. All right. So let's just take them one by one. If you're gonna do the plan I've shared, you simply the recipes are super flexible. You can choose that they don't have to go in the order I've given them. You can choose the fatar recipe from day 13 and have it on day one and mix and match. Same thing with whichever way that you want. Um, what I have shared in that day by day plan again is the option for those of you who want to do a little bit of a detox and then maintain for the rest of Ramadan. The first 10 days, I've done them a little bit deeper in that there's no animal protein. If you don't want to do that, you can just follow those recipes and add a portion of animal protein. That's not a problem at all. And then again, mix and match the recipes as you want. If you don't want to do that and you're very happy eating the way you're eating now, here's how you're going to do that. At suhoor time, this is the time where you are setting your body up for fasting for the next 18 hours. Hydration is key. So this is where you would definitely do your lemon water, your celery juice, your smoothie, or fruit salad, or any of the suhoor options that you have in the day-by-day plan. It has to be heavy on the hydration at suhoor time because this is your foundation. This is where you're taking off from in order to be able to function the rest of the day. So lemon water, celery juice, smoothie, fruits, as much as possible up until you stop eating. And obviously, if you want to drink water as well. But I always find that when I'm drinking these, I don't get very thirsty. Then when it's time to break your fast, again, if it's up to you, if you're up for it, because sometimes I find after fasting, it's very, for me, I feel it's a very different waking up in the morning and having lemon water and breaking my fast in the evening with lemon water. Sometimes I can't stomach it. So if you can stomach it, by all means, start with lemon water to gently ease your liver and your digestive system into the process of digestion that you're about to do. If you find that lemon water is just not hitting, it's just you're going to feel it whether it works or not for you, then definitely start with some kind of a soup or something, a vegetable-based soup, something that is a liquid that's easy to digest. And I think a lot of us do that. We always have a soup at the beginning of the meal. And then go into the rest of your meal, which should be lots of vegetables, lots of salad, and a little bit of animal protein. This should be your routine for the majority of the days in order to keep your hydration levels optimal so that you can function. When I say that what you need to do is figure out your schedule in Ramadan, if you know already that you're going to be going to your mother's house or your mother-in-law's house or your sister's house or family members. Sometimes I know family members sort of get a schedule in place even before Ramadan starts. People are already saying, I have an invitation here and have an invitation here. If that's the case for you and you already know that first day is going to be at my in-laws, second day is going to be at my mother's, day 15 is going to be at my best friend, whatever it is, I want you to actually look at that on a schedule and see how many days you are eating outside of the house, how many days it's going to be more challenging for you to maintain your way of eating. If you look at that schedule and it looks like you have 5 or more days outside of your house, then you need to chop it down. Either you chop it down because 5 or more days of where you potentially have to go and you're not finding hydrating foods and you're not finding simple foods, right? And most of the foods are deep fried or pasta or rice or like the really complicated dishes and lots of desserts and lots of temptations. 5 5 days is, and if 5 days if they're spread out, right? But 5 days is literally the maximum that you can go without derailing all of the work that you've been doing for the past 2 months. So take a really long, hard look at that schedule. See which are the days that truly matter to you the most? Which are the ones that are really about being with family, being with close friends, the ones that where it doesn't matter what you eat because the occasion and the connection with these people during such an important month is what matters most versus other invitations where you're just going through the motions, where it's just one maybe a work thing, maybe something that somebody does every year. It doesn't really have a lot of meaning, but you just sort of do it because you have to. Creating boundaries for your health and for your sanity is something you have to start to create for yourself. It's not just going to happen. So you get to do this whichever way you want, of course, but in order to have a truly healthy, energetic, spiritual, symptom-free Ramadan requires you to spend more time at home than out, requires that you shift your idea of what a Ramadan fitar and suhoor meal plans are. Just because this is how we technically have been doing it all our lives, it doesn't mean it's the right way. We all grew up eating all sorts of things our entire lives that now we know were not the right things to eat. Same thing applies to Ramadan. And of course, if you really do have a goal of true spiritual growth, if you're somebody who really takes this time to, pray and to spend time reading the Quran, and if it's, some people every year push themselves to the next level of spirituality, then you need the energy to do that. You need the focus to do that on top of whatever other responsibilities you have. And that will require for you to fuel your engine, right? This body that's going to take you through this month, you will be required to fuel this engine differently. You can't expect to do the same things over and over again and get different results. It won't happen. So take some time to, absorb all of this, think about it. This can be one of the most incredibly enjoyable, relaxing, spiritual periods that you can have in your life. It took me several years. When I finally experienced it, I couldn't believe that, like so many things, nobody had explained this to me before. And I finally had, I have the Ramadans where I think, oh my God, I wish Ramadan wouldn't finish. When you're not thinking about food, when you're not preoccupied with there's no cravings, when you have time, just simple time, when you wake up and you don't have to make a smoothie, you don't have to make anything. You go to work, or if you're a stay-at-home mom, you have time. Just the simple act of not eating gives you time. Yes, then you have to spend some time cooking in the kitchen later. But the fact that there's, two meals that have been removed off your schedule actually gives you physical time in your day. Not to mention mentally decluttering your brain where you're not thinking about, right, I have to prepare the next meal. What am I going to eat next? Is it time for a snack? Is it not time for a snack? You use that time instead for spiritual growth. Questions. Oh, lots of questions. Let's start from the beginning. Farah. How come we're reintroducing some foods that were removed, like eggs, in the Ramadan plan? Does this mean that after we finish this program, it's okay to have eggs every now and then? So some of you may know or may not know that I run a Ramadan detox separately every year than this program. This year, I'm not doing that just because of the logistics of my life and me traveling next month for my daughter. So I decided not to run a separate Ramadan program. I just incorporated it into the detox. So you guys kind of got like a bonus. So when I run it separately, I run it as a clean eating program, not a deep detox program. So this is why you're going to find things like eggs in there, because the ladies who come in are not necessarily coming in to heal their symptoms. They're not coming in to reverse a chronic condition or hormonal condition. They're just coming in because they want a healthier Ramadan with more energy. So that's why we put in a few eggs, because if you're just doing clean eating, you're not doing deep detoxing, the intention is not healing, then it's okay. Can you have eggs every now and then later? Yes. So once you've reversed whatever symptoms you've got, off of medication specifically, as with everything else, introduce an egg and see what happens. Your body will let you know if it's okay. Typically, what I found with most women and myself included, that I can maybe have eggs like once a month or once every 3 months, like when I travel. But can I have them every single day how I used to before? Absolutely not. That doesn't work. Nariman, I have a problem waiting 30 minutes from celery juice to the smoothie at suhoor time. Sometimes I want. Okay, so obviously this also shifts. A great question. The timings are also going to shift. So when I say that there's a bit of variables here, that's one of them. So in terms of waiting times, we can slash that as needed and do what you feel you need to do. So that's not a problem at all. Won't celery juice and lemon water keep us in the bathroom at night? If are you talking about suhoor or fitar time?
Yes, yes, suhoor.
It won't because you're gonna go to it's very close to wake. It depends on when you wake up though, right? So let's say you have your suhoor, what is it this year? Like around 2:30, 3, whenever it is in the morning, okay? Um, that's very close to like if you're waking up, that's at 8, or waking up even at a normal like working hours, that's not going to wake you up. It's too soon. Like your body will not have enough time. It's in sleep mode. That won't wake you up. Um, and then when you have it at fitar time, it also won't keep you up because you're awake anyway until suhoor. So that you don't worry about that.
But celery keeps me in the bathroom right after I drink it.
Okay, so
I keep
experiment.
visiting the bathroom like every 15 minutes.
Okay. So let's see what happens. Experiment with it. Let's see what happens when your body's fasting. Because
Okay.
it's a different internal dynamic, right? So let's see what if that still happens when you're fasting. If it's uncomfortable, if you're gonna, if you don't want to do that during Ramadan, if you need to, maybe you're out, maybe you need to pray, maybe you don't want to be in the bathroom all the time, it's okay to take a break from celery juice, right? It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
The
Or I
I
can switch to fitar time, right?
Yes, you can
If I,
have
yes,
yeah,
okay,
at that
that's
time,
better
of
for me.
course. Yeah,
100%. Yes.
you can definitely, if you feel like you can stomach it at fitar time,
Yeah.
you can do lemon water, celery juice, smoothie at fitar time, and then wait a few hours and have a meal later. If you feel you can.
Okay.
Personally, for me, I don't know, for whatever reason, my system refuses that. It's not very happy with that. So everybody's going to be a little bit different here. So experiment and see. Farah, you mean 5 days max where we eat foods that aren't allowed? Yeah, so if you are invited out for 5 days or more, I would say 5 days is the cutoff, right? And assuming that you go to these outings and you really don't have options except the traditional foods, and for the most part, that's what people are offering at the Azayim, right? They're not offering you, broccoli and salmon, right? Hardly ever. So I'm assuming that that's not what's available to you, and I'm assuming that you're going to want to partake. It's people together. It's a lemma, it's thing. So I'm just assuming that you're going to go, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. 5 days would be your absolute maximum in order not to re-trigger symptoms, not for it to compound where it would start to affect your energy, affect your sleep, affect your concentration, affect your focus. Nada, would it still be beneficial to have animal protein when I'm invited, but try to do more vegan plant protein dishes when I'm home, or does the vegan diet need to be in a row? It doesn't need to be in a row. Actually, the easiest thing you can do when you're out with limited options is there's going to be some kind of protein usually. So if there's a grilled protein, whichever kind, have that. And if there's a salad, and if you're able and you don't feel like having anything else, that would be your best option. If there's some kind of a soup, animal protein, and some kind of salad or vegetables, do that. I wouldn't worry too much in the Ramadan about am I eating animal protein or not. Don't worry too much about that. Sharifa, so the lemon water, celery, and smoothie, or any of the suhoor recipes are during suhoor. You can also do them during fatar, as I said, if you can stomach it. And during fatar, you drink lemon water or soup, and then yes, or you can do that, lemon water or soup. And then again, the fatar would be any of the recipes in the day-by-day plan that I've given you. So any of those recipes. Or if you want to just keep it basic, you want to do something that doesn't take time, a recipe you're used to, grilled protein plus salad plus your vegetables in the oven, and you're good to go. every day. Rehan, when you say eating out for 5 or more days derails what we did for the past 2 months, does that mean that eating regular food for 5 days will overload the liver and clog the different system? Yes, it definitely will. Depending on what it is you're eating, okay? And remember that our version of regular is different now, right? So regular for us, right, is the vegetables and the fruits and the protein. So I'm gonna just catch your thought for you here, right? When you say regular food in your brain, that's automatically going to translate like what you're eating is not regular, which means it's not sustainable, which is going to make it challenging for you. So remind yourself that what you are doing is regular and what everybody else is doing is the irregular. But yes, 5 days in a row, that will definitely do it. But also 5 days outside of Ramadan, you mean? So 5 days outside of Ramadan, if you're eating that way, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, yes, it will definitely do that. Nada, when should we have dates? And what can we eat in between iftar and suhoor if we get hungry? So a lot of people like to break their fast with dates. So if that's something that is a tradition for you, you'd like to do that, then by all means you can break your fast with dates 100%. Otherwise, you can have them if you have a fitar meal with protein, the same thing applies though. You would want to wait a few hours and then from a few hours all the way until suhoor, you can have all the dates and fruits. Actually, I recommend having all the dates and fruits you can until suhoor time. Something from the Ramadan plan. Yeah, there's also in the Ramadan plan, if when you feel like having a dessert, if you feel like having a dessert, if you maybe you're going out and you want to make sure that you have a dessert that you can enjoy, or maybe you have people coming over, you do have some optimized desserts in the plan also for a dessert option for the evenings where you feel like having something. Farah, you recommended just the lemon water celery smoothie for suhoor or to have that. If you're going to do the smoothie, that is the meal. So the lemon water, celery juice, and smoothie, the smoothie is your meal, the same way that how you have it for breakfast. You wouldn't have anything else. If you want to have something else that's not a smoothie, you can do lemon water, celery juice, because these aren't meals. Lemon water, celery juice, and then have a separate suhoor meal, one of the options. But a smoothie is a meal, is a full meal. Or to have that like in between fitar and suhoor and have something from the Ramadan plan you sent us for. You could also do that. So if you still want to fit in a smoothie, you could do your smoothie a few hours after dinner, sort of in between fitar, in between fitar and suhoor. You could plug in a smoothie in there, and then you can do another one again at suhoor. Like the more hydration that you can get, the better. Or just do lemon water, celery, and one of the suhoor options from the plan. Ghada, I had eggs while traveling and my body refused it. It came in stomach aches. Yes. Typically, when I do have eggs, it is when I'm traveling. If I find myself when I don't have an option to have fruits or a smoothie or something, usually if you're out, most restaurants, the breakfast options or hotels, the breakfast options are eggs. And yeah, my stomach just clams up. Yeah, exactly, Ghada. We can repeat lemon and celery juice in iftar and suhoor. That's correct. Hind, if I drink celery at Fatar, can I eat my meal 30 or 50 minutes later? Yes. Yes. After celery, if you're able to wait, you can do 20 to 30 minutes max and you're good to go. Then you can eat. Ghada, vegetables with tomatoes, like our traditional way, is okay. Like we mix vegetables, tomatoes, onions. I wouldn't do it in the very traditional way, Ghada, because the very traditional way we heat up the onions at very high heat and they can oxidize, they become highly acidic. So if you just sort of put everything, the way they say like nayif nay, that's a much better option if you want to do that. Not where you heat up, whether it's the semna or the oil, and then you put the onions and then you add the tomatoes. That process, that combination turns the tomatoes acidic, and you also lose all the benefits. Mona. The Ramadan guide, Mona, yesterday I uploaded 2 files in the Facebook group. So look under files there and you'll find 2. One is the Ramadan detox guide and one is the day-by-day eating plan. They're both in under files in the Facebook group. On days we're not fasting and want to time ourselves to eat at fitr time, should we treat fitr like an early dinner in terms of the clean eating plan? Yes, you can do that. It can be an early dinner. Exactly. Why peanuts are not allowed. So peanuts and actually some other nuts too, but peanuts for sure. They have a type of invisible mold that grows on them that's called aflatoxin. Some other nuts can also have this mold depending on the way they're stored, but peanuts just have them by default. Doesn't matter how they're stored, that's just how they're grown with this mold on them. So then whenever you eat peanuts or peanut butter, you are ingesting this mold into your digestive system. So cornstarch reda comes from corn, and corn is one of the GMO crops, right? The genetically modified crops. So it's just as, harmful and difficult for your body to digest as wheat is. So wheat and corn are two of the genetically modified crops that need to be avoided. Highly inflammatory. Little of it would be okay. So remember, always remind yourselves, it is not about the things that you do every once in a while. It's the things you do every single day that make a difference. So if you're going to use cornstarch in a meal, in a recipe, okay, a little bit, and this recipe is, you're not the only one eating it, right? So it's going to be divided amongst people. So you're actually going to end up with just a little bit of cornstarch like this, then yeah, then it's fine. The problem is if it's something you're using every single day, consuming in quantities on a regular basis, compounded, this is what can have the effect. Should we have green juices in the evening? If you can, 100%. If you feel like you can stomach a green juice, whether breaking your fast or later on, then by all means, as much as you can in terms of hydration. If your question is, can I have it after fitr, you mean between fitr and suhoor? Then yes, you can also do that. You can also do it at suhoor. Hind, is cornstarch also inflammatory in beauty products or a deodorant? Anything you put on your skin gets absorbed and has to be filtered out by your liver in 26 seconds. So it's actually even faster absorption than absorption by digestion. So yeah. But here's the thing. Let's say you're getting a deodorant that has cornstarch but is aluminum free and sulfate free and all these other things free, right? It's completely pure and it's got a little bit of cornstarch. Then we'd be a little bit discerning here, right? So we removed all the other ingredients. A little bit of, you know, cornstarch in the deodorant is not going to be a huge problem. Sally, is it healthier to soak nuts before eating it? For sure. All nuts and legumes and beans and all of these contain something called phytic acid. All of them. And phytic acid is, we call it an anti-nutrient. That means when you eat it, it gets in the way of your body absorbing nutrients from other healthy foods that you may be eating. So one of the ways to minimize this effect is to soak the nuts or the beans or the legumes overnight in a lot of water and add either apple cider vinegar or lemon juice so that the beans and the nuts and the legumes can release the phytic acid. And you'll see it in the morning when you see that frothy cover, that's the phytic acid. And then you rinse it really, really, really well. And you might not get rid of it 100%, but you definitely minimize as much as possible the effects of the phytic acid. Red, I knew that almonds, we soak it, but what about cashews and pistachio? Everything needs to be soaked, believe it or not. Everything does. I also realized that some of the Black Lotus products contain glycerin after I bought them. Body lotion and foot cream. Do I get rid of them or do I discern, like you said, with cornstarch, if the product is all natural except for this? Yes, you discern. Yeah. You're never, I've only come across two brands so far, and they're not Egyptian, where the ingredients are 100% botanical, clean, pure, where you can like if you take the eye cream and put it on your mouth, you can eat the eye cream, where it's that safe. I've only come across two brands that are like that. Everything else, we were discerning and we try to choose the one with the least amount of harmful ingredients. You have to eat the nuts right away after that, correct? Because otherwise, yes, because it's this for the ones that don't have aflatoxin naturally, like peanuts have it either way. When you store them, they can develop this mold on them. So it's always advised to eat them quickly and always keep them where they're aired. So not like in tight jars in a cupboard. They need air to breathe. Um, I usually crave a dessert a couple of hours after iftar. Would only dates be our only option here? So when you say that when you used to eat the traditional way at iftar time, right? So like when you used to eat like whatever we used to eat before, not eating this way. So if that's the case, so open yourself up to see if you still feel that way now. If you break your fast and you have, whether you do lemon water, celery juice, and then soup, and then protein and vegetables, or you go straight for soup, or you just have some, like whichever variation you do, see if that actually is still the case. Because the reason that would have happened before is because when you break your fast, when the body has been without fuel for 15 hours, okay? And when we say fuel, we mean sugar, natural sugar, and people anyway are not consuming natural sugar. So on top of that, when you've been fasting for 15 hours, there's no fuel at all. And what the body actually wants you to give it is natural sugar and natural fuel, but you don't. Okay. And you go and you break your fast and you eat the rozu, the macarona, and the mahshi, and the penne, and all of these things. You might eat a lot, but what the body has been waiting for all this time, it's still missing. So after you're done eating, the body gives you the signal. You interpret it as a craving for something sweet, and it is. The body wants natural sugar, but you interpret that as a dessert, and you go and have a dessert. But the reason that that's happening, you really need to understand this, is because the body is deficient in nutrients. It was fasting with nothing coming in for 15 hours. And then when you finally fed it, you gave it incredibly low nutrient dense foods. So then a few hours later, it gives you the signal, I really was not fed properly. Please give me fuel, AKA sugar. But you don't know that your body's actually asking you for fruits. You think it's asking for a dessert. So you go and have kunafa or otayef or whatever it is. So it's very important for you to tap into that this time and listen to your body and see what happens. If the signal still comes up, then yes, dates, fruits, smoothie, any type of natural sugar is going to do that. Or you can choose one of the desserts in the plan. Hella, what are the names of these two products? Living libations. So these are linked in your detox guide under the skin section. Living libations is one, and the other one is Anne Marie. Anne Marie Anne Marie Gian. Both of those are the ones that are totally 100% clean. What about dried apricots and arasyag? Okay, good question. So all the ones that you're finding in the supermarkets now, all of the conventional Ramadan dried fruits are all of them have added sugar, and the preservatives, they all have sulfates or sulfites, one of those two, both of which are highly inflammatory. So if you want to make, the traditional dried fruits, you want to have a plate of dried foods, you need to get the ones which are naturally dehydrated with no added sugar and no additives and preservatives, because those are actually carcinogenic. Nariman, I missed this about the nuts. How long do we need to soak them? We need to do this all the time whenever we want to eat nuts. Ideally, this is in an ideal world. Yes, you want to get them raw and you want to soak them with nuts. I would say at least 4 to 6 hours, and then you eat them. But most of us don't do that. Most of us, when we feel like having nuts, we just go and buy a bag of nuts or we go and get some nuts and eat them. So we're not supposed to be consuming also such a huge quantity of nuts that we need to be soaking at home and going through this whole process at home. Okay, it's not such a staple that you need to go through that process. So if it's something that you have, not even once a week, once every 2 weeks or something, I wouldn't say it's worth it to go through this process. Just go ahead and get whatever you want, when you feel the urge to have some nuts. If nuts work for you, this is the most important point. If they work for you, like they don't give you headaches, they don't give you constipation, they don't interfere with any other, symptoms that you've got, and you'd like to have a little bit every day, then I would say go through the hassle of soaking and making them at home yourself. Nariman, where do you find these brands? Online, online only. Both of them technically, theoretically, deliver to Egypt, but then it's totally, your whatever, you're left at the fate, at the command, at the fate destiny of customs, where they might charge you double what you've already paid to get these products in. Your safest bet is if you know somebody who's traveling, or if you're traveling, to order them to wherever you're going to be abroad and bring them back with you. But all of them, both of them, they don't have physical shops, they're only online. Um, could you please repost the Ramadan guide in another format? I don't have Microsoft Office. Mona, can you email me, please? I might have to send this to you separately. So if you can email me, and then I can send it to you in a different format. Hind, the only natural dried fruits are from Minis. Exactly. Yes. Online at Minis. Check Minis dried fruits on Instagram. I believe that might be the easiest way to order them. Okay, ladies, anybody who's had trouble downloading the files, please email me. I don't know what I will do. I'll have to see with my assistant. And the easiest thing might be just to copy paste them and send them to you in a long email. So if that's the case for anybody, please check and make sure. Go into the files in the group today. Make sure that you're actually able to download and open and save the files. And if you can't, then please email me so I can help you with that. Oh, she has a website. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Nada. What do you think about pumpkin seeds to add to the salad? Yes, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. What are some of the other seeds? Yes, definitely you can do that. You're welcome, Reda. Minis also has like the vegetable, like natural vegetable, like stock. Like if you want to make a vegetable soup or any soup, instead of using the horrible Maggi cubes and all of these, she makes like a really nice like an herb, like a dried vegetable herb mix that you can use to make vegetable soups. It's also really good. We'll keep the questions coming, ladies, throughout the next week for Ramadan. Just remember that you're just gonna, again, just keep doing what you're doing. You're just repeating. Healing is about repetition. The only thing that's going to change now is the times that when you're eating, and that's it. Other than that, nothing should really change for you in Ramadan in terms of how you eat and what you eat and how you optimize your health. Ramadan, don't fall into this trap of believing that you need more food, you need more nutrition, this is the time to eat more. Nothing could be further from the truth. And already, like I told you, you are, leaps and bounds ahead in terms of hydration, in terms of no cravings, in terms of no coffee headaches, in terms of being optimized with nutrient dense foods. So you want to, go into this with a very strong mindset that it's going to be a different experience for you, and set an intention. I would set an intention for Ramadan. Like, what is the most important thing for you when Ramadan is finished, inshallah, this year? What do you want to feel by the time Ramadan is finished? Set an intention from now. Your intention for this Ramadan is to feel. It could be a spiritual intention. Maybe you want to increase however many times you pray, or you want to increase how much you read, or you want to increase, how much you give to the poor, or you want to increase how much food you give away, like whatever it is. It could be that, or it could be an intention around your physical health, that I want to reach the end of Ramadan and X, not be tired, not have a headache. I want to work out during Ramadan. I've had ladies who set that intention. They want to be able to continue to work out normally the way they do before Ramadan. So that could be an intention. Think of what would really make this month, worth it for you. Set that intention, and then everything else sort of just falls in place. Hind is steroid, alcohol, any alcohol is a toxic. Any alcohol, it's alcohol, right? The alcohol that people drink, the alcohol we put on our skin to sterilize, it's all toxic. There's no form of alcohol that is not toxic. Our next class is on Sunday, ladies, 7 p.m. But then remember, I'm traveling next week. So our class that was supposed to be on Tuesday will be on Wednesday, and it will be at 12 p.m. Cairo. I've shifted all that in the events. So in case you're ever wondering, or you don't know, you're not sure, check the events in the Facebook group. I've made those changes already. So Sunday, same time. Wednesday is the class after that. And then we're back to Sunday, Tuesday, until the end of Ramadan, which when the program finishes anyway. Our classes will be at 12 p.m. Cairo, not 7 p.m. Neriman, where can I find the list of toxic ingredients for beauty products, not the vitamins? In your guide also, Neriman. So in the same guide, if you go up to the section on skin, I've listed not all of them, but the biggest toxic ingredients in beauty products inside the detox guide. The same guide, the same document that has the vitamins ingredients. How do we know if baking soda is aluminum free? It should be labeled as such. If it's not labeled aluminum free, then you cannot be sure. So it's just like how some things need to be labeled, sugar free or gluten free or something. It needs to be labeled.
I get it from the doctor.
Ask him. He would know.
They would know?
They would
Okay.
know. Ask
Be
him.
honest though.
Sorry?
They might not be honest. They
These
might not
people are
be
actually
honest.
very knowledgeable, believe it or not. They're very knowledgeable when it comes to these ingredients, when it comes to herbs. Some of them actually know like the medicinal properties of the herbs that they have and what they can do and what they're used for. So you'd be surprised. So some of them, right? It's worth asking.
Okay.
Okay. All right, ladies. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I will see you all again on Sunday, inshallah. Please, please let me know if you cannot access those documents so I can fix that for you. All right. Good night. You're welcome.